reliance on the stuff and over prescribing it. Like, just there's so many things, right?
Antibiotic resistant
Really?
bacteria type stuff. Yeah, it's always climate change, which is definitely a possibility. Also, not a whole lot of like human conflict. Um, so you kind of
I don't
touched
think
all
it's
those bases.
Yeah, I just think like, I mean, having seen how people have reacted during the pandemic, I'm like, oh, this is how we're gonna die, like literally, because um I just think that we're gonna kill ourselves with shit like this way before climate change even like fully destroy. I mean, obviously climate change will compound all of these issues, but just the antibiotic resistance with factory farming and our increasing reliance on the stuff and over prescribing it, like just there's so many things, right? Even just COVID, people are already like, COVID's over, bye, or whatever. And like, as someone who's high risk, I'm like, okay, so like, do I just die here like alone? So I think humans are very, especially in America, so self-centered, and there's no way we can have a global reaction to anything. Like say something pops off in a different area of the world and some super antibiotic resistant drug takes hold. Like I just think it could kill all of humanity pretty quick.
On the COVID point, not only is it not gone, transmission levels right now are like at or just about at the same point they were last November, which was the start of the worst spread because the holidays were the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And we're basically back there. And
Yeah.
it's getting bad in Europe. Germany just announced a new wave of lockdowns and protocols. Austria announced lockdowns. Um, it's not good because and a big part of that is dumbasses aren't getting the vaccine. That's it. It's
I
like a
think it's
huge part of it.
I think it's a big part of it, but I actually think just as much of a part of it is this failure to mitigate an airborne virus. Like, forcing people to go back to work, for instance, or to encourage them to go into crowded places where we don't have any kind of ventilation. Like we know
Yeah.
how this virus spreads. And like, I do think that there's certain things there, even if you're vaccinated, like you deserve to be in it, like collectively, like the government or society should like invest in these public health measures, right? That are not just individual. You wear a mask, right? Or you do this. It's like we need to make sure, just the way that we made sure that we had clean water for people to drink, that there's clean air for people. And that's not even just outside of COVID. The ProPublica recently did this amazing interactive showing sort of air quality issues and just like the disparities between rich and poor, and the not just the viruses they're subjected to, but also pollution and stuff. And I just think like, having clean air is increasingly a luxury, and we should think about, doing that too. And obviously, everyone should get vaccinated, undeniably. But
Yeah, yeah, totally. The rush to reopen is just as responsible as people not getting vaccinated because when those two overlap, that's when we get these huge spikes. It's when
the rush to
people
reopen with
insist,
no ventilation, like no ventilation. It's just
and in
like,
some places, like no restrictions on masks, no restrictions on like
yeah,
social distancing. It's just like a total return to normal as if nothing happened as you're encouraging people to distrust the vaccine or to not get it or to take fucking horse pills or to take Z-Pack or whatever your comedian MMA podcast tells you. Like just these totally bogus approaches to something that multiple companies have like vaccines for. It's just you're
yeah.
it's a recipe for disaster. And now we are at a huge basically the next month, a huge travel period where people are going to get it and spread it all over.
I'm
And then
just
it,
really, yeah, I'm just really, really personally like disappointed. I always had faith in humanity, I think, until this past year, in the sense like I always used to believe people were fundamentally good and like would help others. And I'm really disappointed by sort of like the ableism and the like, oh, well, it's only people with pre-existing conditions or only people, right, that are like dying or something. And it's like, yeah, that's actually a lot of us. And like, just because I have this like health condition doesn't mean I should fucking die. Like, like, and I think that's very toxic thinking too. It's very individualistic and not like, hey, let's just make sure everyone's healthy and we're doing this together. And yeah, I love also the people that are like, we're not cowering to COVID or whatever, like, and it's like, I mean, would you say that if like your house was burning down? Like, well, I'm not powering to a fire. It's like, it doesn't give a shit. It's a fucking virus.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
So
I can't infect this guy. He has freedom. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't discriminate.
it doesn't
Uh
discriminate. So anyway, very
yes. No,
passionate
I
about that. And people don't seem to
it's
know about long COVID either, which is very scary to see
yeah,
this new
you
wave
told me
of
about that and it like
tell
mortified me.
people. Yeah, and I don't think the media does a good job of covering that type of stuff at all, and it's very sad. One of my colleagues actually had long COVID and did write about it for the New York Times. I think the New York Times has written some, but I just think that people, yeah, they're like, oh, it's just going to be a cold, and it's like, well, it's not, and necessarily. I mean, hopefully it will be for many people. It will be, but let's not forget about like all of the vulnerable people in our population. You know.
You had mentioned I think just last night somebody that I think got long COVID and they still haven't
I
gotten
know a
their
few
taste of
people.
smell or taste back.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
And this
what?
was
Yeah. One girl I know is permanently disabled and can't even walk up the stairs and had a very mild. I mean, all of these people had mild cases. Another friend of mine has permanent heart damage. I mean, there's so many people like that, and it's like people talking about it openly online, and just these other people that are like, we don't want to know about it. We don't want to think about it. It's not going to happen to me. Sort of like ME/CFS, which is chronic fatigue syndrome. It also seems to be affecting women worse, which is kind of scary because the medical establishment is just traditionally not cared about women's pain and suffering or taking them seriously. So
yep.
everyone should just be
Jesus.
careful and push for more collective, approaches to things, not just individual.
That's what was really like disheartening last year. And it's like you kind of knew it existed, but it was just a